When I first came to Bali, my business partner at the time, he came to me and he shot this video for me. But he was trying to get me to come to Bali and to partner with him on this big opportunity that he was so excited about. He thought it was going to be like a $1 billion, or like going to retire us both, with yachts and stuff at the time. This was like 8 years ago. He's like, okay, so I'm going to pay your way to Bali. I'm going to buy you a plane ticket, bring you over here for like a couple of weeks. I'll pay for everything. And he says, I also have $10,000 and $100 bills right here. I'm going to share with you my business idea. And if you don't want to do it, I'm going to give you this $10,000 and you go back home, no sore feeling or no hard feelings. But if you do choose to partner with me, I keep the money, but then we retire together, rich, And so he did. So he offered that, and I was like, of course, free plane ticket. I was already in. So I ended up coming over here to Bali, and I just fell in love with Bali right away. I think Bali's amazing. It's this artistic culture. It's a sort of like a, what do you call it, like a karma-driven society, and I love like the people here. Bali feels like you're in a different planet almost. Everything is so different, I mean, it's surreal almost. And I loved to experience something new, something completely new. It inspired me, Artists in Bali, they do it as a career because they need to make money to survive. Like, it's their life. It's not like a hobby like in America, where something you just do. So I just found that to be really cool. You can bounce around to these different islands. You can hop on a glass bottom, charter a boat for $8 and go from one island to the next, and you have a crew of people for like 5 or 6 hours in a day for $8 US dollars, That's cool. That's really cool. And then they'll take you out and you can go snorkeling while you're there, and see these big sea turtles swimming through the ocean. It's beautiful, amazing experiences. I couldn't spend the money that I wanted to spend while I was here because it was just, everything's too cheap, I was like, wow, this is amazing. And all handcrafted, art. Came with 2 empty suitcases. I left with 2 full suitcases of stuff. I think the whole time I spent like $250 US dollars to do it. I remember going back to America and I wore a sarong for like the first 3 days I was back in America, where the only guy wearing a dress. I didn't wear it out of the house, but yeah, it was really, it was like, I could feel Bali calling me back, like I really could. I always sort of knew that I would come back here someday, but my situation didn't allow it, I had kids in school and a wife and responsibilities, that I still was tempted, and I tried to talk my wife into it at times. She was open to it, but it just didn't actually happen. It was, so when I went through my divorce with my wife, my separation with her, and 6 months later I ended up here because I was like, man, I have nothing holding me back now. It's like I'm free to do what I want, and like Bali, yeah, just went back to that dream, and like went for it, and here I am now, not looking back. I couldn't imagine going back now. One of the like unexpected gifts that Bali has given me is just that experience of driving on motorcycles. I was in love with driving motorcycles when I was a kid. In fact, I was a really poor kid, so I always begged my mom to get me a motorcycle, but she just couldn't afford it. She couldn't afford $150 to buy a motorcycle ever at the time. I knew it was a dream that wasn't going to happen. My best friend, he had this Honda CT70, this mustard yellow Honda CT70 mini trail bike. It was really, really cool. Now they're collector's items, I think everybody from my generation like sees those bikes and they're just like, oh my God, I remember those. It's funny when you have a childhood dream, and you gotta let it go. You know that you can't have it. When you become an adult and maybe you make some money and suddenly those doors are actually open for you. I went back, the first motorcycle I ever bought was the Honda CT70, in a better color than the mustard yellow. That was the first motorcycle that I ever bought. It's like this big 200 plus pound guy driving around on this tiny little, motorcycle, but finally I got it, Here in Bali, now I have 5 motorcycles. I love motorcycles. We're getting ready to open up a motorcycle company actually here, creating and building motorcycles. But when I first came to Bali, I remember like just feeling that feeling again, feeling like a kid, almost like, I just remember almost like the feeling that you remember the first time you ever rode a bicycle as a child, how that felt. It's just like this feeling of wonder. We're like, wow, this is so awesome, But when you get out on these open roads, these winding roads going through the countryside of Bali, there's no feeling that tops it. It's like surfing or something, or skiing, or it's just a very special thing, a special experience that you can't even describe in words almost. It's like you have to do it. You have to just get on the motorcycle and drive. And I describe it as like a little bite-sized chunk of freedom. It feels like, I feel like I'm free when I'm doing it. We go on these adventures through North Bali, and it's more of an uncharted territory for tourists. Most tourists in Bali, they don't make it to North Bali. They stick around to these overpopulated touristic areas. But if you hop on a motorcycle and you drive for 3 days through North Bali, through the mountains and the jungle, and yeah, it's really cool. And you get to connect with real locals, like real true locals. What I did was I bought 100 lollipops, and had them in a plastic bag. You could see through it, and all these kids come running up to me, and I was like, what are they saying? But turns out that they were saying candy. How do you say candy in Bahasa? Huh? Permen, yeah, permen. That everybody yelling it, even adults and kids, man. When they see candy coming, they're like yelling it out, and they come running up, and they're like barefoot, and they're not wearing shirts, and they're just big smiling faces. And I remember taking photos with these little kids. I got 6 or 7, 8, 9 neighborhood kids circling around my motorcycle, and everybody's got 2 or 3 lollipops in their hands. The Bali people, when you take the tourism out of it, and they're disconnected from some of the more touristic areas, I think they're kind of more connected to nature, and they feel like life slows down to a crawl, and the year goes back 100 years, and everything was more simple, everything was more simple, and they're living that life now. It's almost like taking a peek back in time. It's like time traveling back 100 years and being around these people that are just living so simply, and they're so, I love to see somebody who's poor, like really poor, but the smile on their face is bigger than I've ever seen before. I think that's an amazing thing. I like to go, when I go on my motorcycle tour up north, I bring 10 million rupiah with me, and give away, give $1 million. Those are for some farmers, that would be 2 or 3 months salary, they get paid with rice, most of them, just so they can feed their family. You find somebody who specifically looks really happy, they got this big smile on their face, and sit down with them. Some of them speak English, broken English, and you can talk to them. They'll tell me their stories, and then part from them with a big gift like that, and they're just so blown away by it, that somebody would connect with them and give, just help them out like that. I mean, I've never felt more free than I do in Bali. Bali for me is this, it is less of a place, it's more of a journey that I'm on. It's part of a journey that I'm on. And I sometimes say that Bali encapsulates freedom for me. It is, if you look out through the rice fields, there's something special about rice fields. It's like a green ocean, and it goes on forever, especially out here in northern Ubud. It's just these expansive rice fields. It's beautiful. And to realize some things about yourself that you can't realize maybe when you're stuck in your office every day, or you're stuck in the city every day, surrounded by the cement jungle. It doesn't feel the same. You're not connected to nature like I can be here. Man, there's a secret that I learned. I spent, a dozen years of my life chasing this dream of financial freedom, like that was the answer to me. Like if I achieve financial freedom, it's like, that's victory. It's like now everything's gonna be better in my life, you know? And then when I finally did achieve financial freedom, I realized that financial freedom is not the end goal. It's not, that's more like it's more like a key that you use to open up a door to ultimate freedom, because freedom comes in all different forms. Like freedom, that's why I say like freedom is being able to hop on a plane and go anywhere that you want, anytime that you want. Walking down a beach, holding the hand of somebody that you care about, who cares about you, and not feeling pulled to go back or pushed to go forward. It's like, that is freedom. That is the feeling of freedom right there. And it'll go away maybe when you leave that beach. You know, it wasn't there before you got there, and it'll kind of leave you when you leave there. But you can really experience freedom in the moment, like right now. So you want to put yourself in an environment where you can experience more of those moments, because freedom is not a big thing that you just get. Freedom is something that you experience, you know, so you have to like experience it in these little bite-sized chunks. So when I was back in California, I love California. I think California and America is an amazing place, but I also felt kind of trapped and stuck there. I felt like I was in a rat race. I felt like I was, you know, I was just like, you know, you're just competing with the Jones next door, trying to, you know, make it. And no matter how much money you make, you still feel like shit because somebody else is next to you, like showing off about how they're making more, and you can never win, you know, it's just like you're stuck in this rat race. But in Bali, the people aren't like that here. They don't even really think about money that much, you know. Somebody could make 2 million or they could make 12 million, and they just don't really, a lot of them just don't really even care that much about that. It's not a money-centric, money-driven society so much, you know. Everybody needs to survive, but then that's why these big smiles can be on a farmer's face who's making 400,000 a month, which is equivalent of like 20 or 30 bucks, you know, a month. Our average income is like $100 a month or something, $80 a month or something here, you know, and yet there's more smiles here than I ever saw in California. I was like, I want to be here, you know. I would love to see Bali become more of a mecca for entrepreneurs. I would love to see more entrepreneurs come to Bali and claim it as their home and just embrace it and just experience. Because I'll tell you what, I went from Kansas, where I grew up, to like Dallas, Texas, which was a step up, I will say, to San Diego, California, which was amazing. I couldn't really imagine myself ever leaving there. But the fact that I went to Bali for 2 weeks gave me something to look forward to. 8 years later, I landed here, and I'm not really looking back at San Diego. I'm looking at Bali as a major step up from San Diego in so many different ways. You know, if you're making 10,000 a month in California, you're barely making it. 10,000 a month in Bali is like 100,000 a month in California. So if you're making $1 million a month, you're basically a billionaire in Bali. I think that when you come from an efficient society, like you know, America or the Western world, you get accustomed to certain things. And so when you come here, you notice the things that are not quite developed to where you hope that they will someday be. And I think that I see like too many children driving around on motorcycles without helmets. I feel like I could make that change for people here and create a movement where I'm saving lives just through educating, you know, to the different authority figures, authority heads, you know, throughout the communities, and educating them, going to the schools and talking to the students and the parents and educating them about the importance of you know, saving the lives of our innocent young children here. There's a lot of major pollution problems here, just uneducated people that are burning like plastic bottles and bags and stuff and putting poisonous chemicals up into the atmosphere and into the lungs of the people around them, you know, their own family, and just not even thinking about it. I think those are problems that need to be fixed here. They need to be resolved here. You'll go and you'll look at this amazing, beautiful place, you know, this beautiful, you know, view somewhere, and then you'll walk up to the ledge and you'll look over and you'll see thousands of plastic bags that have washed through with the rain down into this little area, and you're like, geez, man, you know, not only does somebody need to go clean that up, but it needs to be resolved on a different level. It needs to be resolved through education I went snorkeling in North Bali, off the coast of North Bali, like an hour off on a boat, go snorkeling for 4 or 5 hours. And I was swimming through garbage, I mean, plastic bags, plastic bottles all around me. Like, this is where they took me to go swimming, you know, but you had to swim under like several meters in order to get out away from those floating plastic bags. It looked like jellyfish floating in the water, but it was just these clear plastic bags. I was like, this is sad. And there are a lot of other problems here too. Like, if you ride down the roads here, you'll see dogs on the side of the road. Some of them are walking like this. They're in so much pain, and they got like no fur. Their fur has come off, and they got this thick, rough looking, you know, like skin underneath. And they have, I think it's like scabies or something like that. It's like a really painful, just horrible, you know, disease that can actually be cured and resolved quite easily with a little injection or something. And it's the kind of thing that I think that I could have an impact. I have the financial ability to create some kind of movement. I have the vision, I think, to create these kinds of movements within the society, to make a big impact, so that 20 years down the road, you know, it's like I want to give back to the community here. 20 years down the road, some of these problems could be solved, and I can play a role in that.